What did people do before Speedchain?
Short answer is, struggled, right?
Yeah.
In some instances.
It's like data collection is so important, man. Like so many people, it doesn't matter what position you're in. This could be in construction. This can be within Speedchain, mobilization funding. It doesn't matter. A lot of everyday work is collecting, aggregating, and organizing data. And if you have a platform, particularly on spend, makes that process autonomous. Like it works while you're sleeping.
There's something in construction, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, kind of called the receipt rodeo, right? How do I track down these receipts? I got 50 on my dashboard. I got to go to the office to turn them in.
We experienced that here, like with our own company.
Exactly.
Hey folks, welcome to episode 145 of the Mobilization Mindset. I'm really glad you're joining us today. I've got the pleasure of having David Heyer here, the Chief Revenue Officer from Speedchain. He's a good friend. We work with Speedchain quite a bit. They're in our industry. We see them all over the place. We're really happy to have you here, David. Welcome.
True. Thank you. Excited to be here. Excited to have the conversation and dig into it.
Awesome. Well, Chief Revenue Officer, that's a big role. So you're obviously trying to grow the company.
Yeah.
And for our viewers to get a better understanding of your role, kind of your background, what you focus on every day.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about Speedchain at a high level and how it is kind of integrated into the construction industry and what your role is in contributing to that growth of Speedchain.
Yeah. No, love it. So to kind of give everybody some context, Speedchain is a commercial credit card and expense management platform, right? So put simply, piece of plastic plus a piece of software that helps businesses kind of manage and control their spend that they have in a field. Now, what's unique about Speedchain is we've purpose-built this platform for construction. And the reason for that is there's kind of one kind of big unlock that we realized as Speedchain was getting built and as we're kind of taking this product to market. And that was that corporate spend and project level spend are two fundamentally different things, right? And bank cards and other card platforms really solve for that corporate level spend, but kind of that field spend's tougher to get your arms around. And there's kind of three reasons why that's the case, right? The first is the underlying data for a project is far more complex than it is in a corporate environment, right? If I sit in sales and marketing, I go out to take somebody out to dinner, I swipe something and it goes to just a general cost center. In construction, we have project codes, cost types, in some instances, sub-job codes, right? So really getting a platform that makes it easy for individuals to categorize that data. Two is that projects operate on their own timelines, right? Amex sends you your bill on the 1st of the month and bills you on the 30th of the month, right? In construction, projects don't operate that way. So have to have the visibility and ability to kind of control that spend and manage that spend, knowing that PMs and supers are really tasked with two things, being on time and on budget, right? So building a platform that helps them. And then ultimately, employees are traversing projects far more frequently than they do cost centers, right? In the morning, you could be on one project, in the afternoon on a different one. So building a platform that provides individuals with the flexibility to kind of traverse multiple projects was kind of the thesis as to why we built Speedchain.
Yeah, I mean, that's so interesting you say that. I actually call what you just described as like project stacking, right? So I'm on a webinar in a few weeks and I'm going to be talking about how not having a strong grasp on your cash flow can actually be a detriment in your forward-looking projections, but not because you have one project. It's because you have 7 projects that are stacked on top of each other, and one project you don't have absolute clarity into, which can affect in sort of a ripple effect in your other projects. So that's a really interesting thing. You said one thing. You said it's sort of easy when you have a corporate card for your company as a whole, right? Because there's a job costing center, right? It goes to marketing or it goes to sales.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about construction, you're really kind of leaning into your cost drivers are really on the project. So talk to me about how Speedchain's application not from a payment standpoint, but from like a UI standpoint, how you're displaying to the customer, okay, these are your project costs. This is how it flows into the rest of your financials. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you just described, there's kind of two big types of spend on any construction job, right? You've got your committed spend, the spend that is captured in your project management software or your ERP, right? It's anytime 75 to 80% of any given project. And then you've got that kind of project level spend, which you just described, Drew. It's kind of got teams all over the place. You got guys in the field all over the place, tracking all these different projects. And the big gap has historically been visibility into that spend, right? It's really hard to capture that data, bring that data into the accounting systems or systems of record, and giving the finance team visibility into all of that. And so, one of the things that we learned early, and you just kind of mentioned it, is that there's this data lag from when someone swipes a card on the field, when that data gets sent to the finance team, how the finance team categorizes that project in their kind of back-end accounting software. And then when you go to close out the project and this project stacking that you just described, what you thought might have been a 10% margin project is really a 7% margin project. Right? And so what Speedchain was built to do was to give that finance team real-time visibility. So they have, the second a credit card is swiped in Speedchain, that transaction is populating in a data table, right, for the admin to manage. Now, the admin, we've kind of built two different experiences. The admin, total visibility across the organization, and then a card holder to really kill the expense report from them. So we've made it from a UI perspective. Hey, if I'm somebody out on the job, I swipe my card. All I have to do is go in there and hit a couple drop downs, categorize my transactions. I can even text in to a receipt agent, hey, it's for this job. All of that data gets categorized in real time and flows across to the admins and PMs, right? So that kind of need for real-time WIP reports or real-time data visibility is really kind of satisfied with Speedchain.
So let's take a step back from Speedchain. Actually, no, I have one more question before I ask the question I'm about to ask. I don't really know of many other platforms and payment services, cards like you guys. What did people do before? I mean, you guys work with so many clients across the country.
Yeah.
I know of many of them. What did people do before Speedchain?
Short answer is, struggled, right?
Yeah.
In some instances, right? They went to their banks, they went to American Express, and they basically were trying to connect legacy systems to other legacy systems, right? And I think when we talk about technology today, you've got all these different platforms and they're all siloed in different ways. And so that they don't connect or they don't talk to one another, right? And the way to run, and what we've seen a lot of our clients do successfully, is connect those platforms so that there is this kind of data sharing and real visibility that really allows these businesses to operate efficiently.
Yeah. All right. Taking a step back from Speedchain and kind of talking a little bit about best practices here. And I think this is worth talking about with our viewers is we at Mobilization Funding solve some of the same problems that you do, but you guys solve different components of the same problem, right? Yeah. So when you're looking at credit card spend on jobs, what are some best practices? How does that work? All right. So I'm a business owner. I've got a Speedchain card, right? I also have access to other capital, whether it be through Mobilization Funding or a bank or an asset-based lender of some sort, but I also have Speedchain. What am I using the Speedchain card for? Like best practices. What should I be focusing that spend on?
Yeah.
As I plan my project, as I plan my month, I plan my project, and I have 4 or 5 other projects going on at the same time.
Yeah. There's kind of two things. One is there's the plan spend that you just described, and like Speedchain can really help you be a card on file, and where mobilization plays and kind of pairing the two together is going to buy materials, going to buy kind of pre-committed spend, right? What best in class looks like and the real value Speedchain delivers is really out in the field, right? So you've got 100 guys at any given time working across multiple territories. Historically, you don't have the controls to dictate where and how that card can be used, right? So at Speedchain, what you're doing is you're creating a card for a person in the field. You're going to put spend rules around where and how that card can be used, right? Is this a gas card? Is this card only meant to be used to buy materials, right? Are there spend limits or velocity rules set to say, hey, this guy can only go spend $1,000 versus $10,000. So kind of before the card even gets into the employee's hand is putting those guardrails in place to ensure that the business has the protections it needs, but it also gives the cardholder the autonomy to kind of complete their project, right? The second thing is really the biggest hurdle that businesses struggle with today is collecting receipts and collecting data from the field, right? And so
When you
what
say receipts, do you mean receipts for items that they paid for, or are you talking about receipt of their AR? You're talking about receipts for items they pay for.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All
I
right.
walk into Home Depot, I bought a hammer, the receipt associated with that transaction and getting it back to the finance team. There's
Got it.
something in construction, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, kind of called the receipt rodeo, right? How do
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
track down these receipts? I got 50 on my dashboard. I got to go to the office to turn them in.
We experienced that here, like
Yeah.
just with our own company.
Exactly. SpeedChain kills that, right? We have a feature called card lockout, which basically says, hey, if as an organization, from a company policy point of view, we want receipts to be required for transactions, there's settings within SpeedChain that you can turn on or off. And what I tell people is it's not meant to be a carrot and a stick. What it's meant to do is give the finance team time back to focus on revenue additive activities and letting the technology police the behavior in the field and collect that data on behalf of the finance
It's
team.
like data collection is so important, man. Like so many people, it doesn't matter what position you're in. This could be in construction. This can be within speed chain, mobilization funding. It doesn't matter. Um, a lot of everyday work is collecting, aggregating, and organizing data. And if you have a platform, particularly on spend, that
Yeah.
essentially it makes that process autonomous. Like it works while you're sleeping and just reports to you when you need the report, and it's accurate, right? I mean, there's that whole decision. People are kind of going into artificial intelligence and how can we leverage artificial intelligence to make us more effective, more efficient. But you can have the best AI tool in the world that's the most efficient thing in the world, but if it's not accurate, it's useless, right?
It's a great point. I mean, what we talk about is like good data in, good data out, bad data in, bad data out, right? And
Yeah.
so, if some of the large general contractors that we're working with have, north of a couple hundred projects running at any given time, right? And so if you just let an individual in the field click on his phone and select one of those multiple hundred projects, and then the cost codes that relate to those hundred, you're probably going to get bad data, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've overwhelmed somebody with selection and choice. And so really what we've also done is built a module that allows you to filter down visibility, filter down kind of selection and choice, so that if I'm in the field only working on 2 projects, I only have the visibility into those 2, right?
Yeah.
We're making it as easy as possible to collect that data, but we also want to make sure that that data that we're collecting, to your point, is accurate, because if it's not, we've just created more work on the back end.
And for the credit card spend, and then this is kind of my last question about the sort of mechanics of the card and best practice. A best practice question is are you only spending money on the card that essentially that you pay back within 30 days? Because like
Yeah.
a longer term costs, like large material spend that you might that might be a significant portion of your job costs that you pay in 60 days. That's probably not something that you would put on the card, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Typically the way to think about spend with SpeedChain is you make a purchase 30 plus 5 days after that, you're paying it down, right? And
Yeah.
so this is for your field team that's scattered across the country, giving them the ability to kind of purchase materials in the field.
Yeah.
Uh, and less kind of, as you just described, those larger big purchases, which is obviously what mobilization funding helps with.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't want to use it. There's a term petty cash, right?
Yeah.
There's a petty cash bucket for guys out in the field. Okay, I need a couple things from Home Depot. We don't have it in the truck. I'm going to go get that. Right? That's very different than buying $1 million worth of flooring from your flooring supplier to finish your job. Right?
Exactly.
So, all right, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about the industry in general, sort of the payments industry. We talked a little bit about sort of the evolution of artificial intelligence. And the question comes up all the time with our customers is how can we leverage? I mean, you cannot replace a guy in the field. Like, how are you replacing the guy in the field? So the question remains, how can we leverage sort of this ever evolving technology landscape to make us, a construction company, more efficient? So what are you seeing out there? I know you're going to all these conferences. You're in the tech
Yeah.
space, right? Payment space, which is kind of synonymous in a lot of ways. What are some trends that you're seeing out there that you feel comfortable talking about?
Yeah. And so I think from a payments perspective, it's super important to ground us into like where we see that innovation, right? So historically speaking, a lot of that innovation starts with the consumer. So B2C.
Actually, I'm gonna interrupt you. Where do you think we, if you like look at a curve, right? Where do you think we are on the in the technology landscape with regard to payments technology? Like, you think we're still kind of on the upward slope? Do you think we flattened out? Where do you think we are?
Yeah, I think the rate at which technology is changing these days, and specifically for construction, I think we're still on that upward slope, right?
Mhm.
I think that Speedchain and other financial technology companies, we see a lot of innovation in B2C that hasn't even come to B2B yet, right? And so
Mm.
I think that, and historically from innovation trends, you see a lot of stuff start with consumer because it's less enterprise, it's more one-off, right? And that's
Mhm.
where the innovation starts. When you look at the financial landscape, you kind of have your technology first businesses, right? And you've got your banks and two big buckets. And I think one thing to say is banks are great at many things, moving money, helping you with financing your business. Building technology is not one of them, right? And
Mhm.
so that leaves itself to businesses like Speedchain to go build that technology. I think where we're seeing the most innovation is around processes, right? So it's not
Okay.
the transaction itself or the movement of money itself. There's not a ton of innovation. Where the innovation is once a transaction has happened, what is the workflow that needs to happen to get that data to where I want it to, and how do I eliminate as many paths or barriers to get that data categorized or from a workflow perspective, alleviate that pain point for the end user.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, the payments industry, I worked at a payments company for a minute, not long. And the amount of technology that goes into sort of modernizing our payments infrastructure is incredible. Quite honestly, a little bit over my head. I learned the term API while I worked there. I
There we
felt like
go.
I made a lot of
Exactly. No,
progress.
and but that innovation that you just like the API, which you just even mentioned, kind of it's you have all of these disconnected systems, and we're now getting into a world where with open APIs and the ability to move data, it's breaking down all the walls, right?
Yeah.
So it's now easier than ever before to push data into systems that historically you couldn't get data into.
Yeah. You talk to, or at least the guys and gals on your team talk to business owners all the time, and I bet a lot of the business owners are like, well, talk to my CFO, talk to my controller. You guys have talked to a ton. So, what are some best practices from your perspective that some of the best controllers, best CFOs have instituted within their organizations?
Yeah.
That when you look at companies and say, hey, is this going to be a good customer? Is this going to be a good partner for us? That are like no brainers for you, some
Yeah.
tendencies that they might have.
I think the first thing, and you just mentioned tendencies that they might have. The first thing is this understanding of like constant improvement, right? Just because certain CFOs or controllers have done something a certain way for 20 years doesn't mean it's the right answer, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that some businesses say, hey, we've done it this way, we're comfortable with this, versus, hey, we've done it this way, but we understand there's a better way to do it. So I think kind of just approaching problems with a lens of, hey, there's always going to be something new, interesting, exciting out there that can make my life easier. So I think it's this openness to approach a problem in a type of way. I think from there's a level of intentionality about how they want to solve that problem,
I
right?
use
It's
the
not,
word intention all the time, dude.
yeah,
All the
it's
time.
not like we saw this problem, so we're going to go spend a couple days figuring it out. It's, hey, no, we're going to go identify what the problem is. We're going to understand the pain points that are causing that problem. We're now going to go out to the market to find a solution that does that. And then we're going to identify someone within the organization that's responsible for implementing and scaling this across the
Mhm.
organization and really setting up the program for success and not letting it die on a vine.
David, you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, so many people have good ideas, right, in
Yeah.
organizations. However, execution is the hardest part. And what I've noticed in organizations that I've been a part of, and I kind of check myself in the current organization, more mobilization funding, is if you have a new idea and there's a clear problem that idea is solving too, right? You have to pick an owner of that initiative and set expectations on it. So many organizations just They're in a room, in a meeting, there's 8 people. They're like, all right, let's go. Good. The idea is great, but there's no owner.
Totally. And I think specifically for tech rollouts and or innovation, you're changing a process or you're improving a process, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if the first person that experiences this says, "Well, it's different," and gives up, it's not going to work. And so where we've seen a lot of success is, sometimes we're rolling out credit cards in the platform to hundreds of users, if not thousands of users, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's, as you just described, it's like, okay, who is going to be the champion that takes this through all the way to the finish line? And by the way, once you get to the finish line, everyone's going to pop up and say, "Holy shit, this is a lot
Yeah.
easier," right?
Good job. Yeah. And it might have been a struggle. I tell our folks all the time, I want you to struggle.
Yeah.
If you don't struggle, you're not growing. If all the answers are provided to you, you're not growing. You're not exercising your muscle, your brain muscle, right? Or your problem solving muscle. I mean, the ability to solve problems or work through challenging scenarios is practice. It is a muscle, right? All right, I want to shift gears a little bit in the last part of our meeting here, and it's a little bit away from payments and all that stuff. It's more to business sort of strategy, business philosophy. I
Yeah.
have the opportunity to be sitting here with the chief revenue officer for a very, very fast growing company, right? I've always believed that no matter what industry you're in, whether that be construction, technology slash payments, lending, whatever, whatever it may be, if you are in growth mode and you are growing and you want to grow, you can learn a lot of perspective and strategies from other industries, right? So as the chief revenue officer for Speedchain, you're looking at the market. How do you define growth? What are sort of the actions and strategies or tactics you're taking to execute on that sort of definition of growth? And third, how do you view the market? How do you attack the market? Meaning, all right, this is how we define growth. This is success. Number two, all right, I'm going to look at the whole market and see where the opportunity is. And number
Yeah.
three, these are the tactics that I'm going to use in order to execute at a high
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, I think all of that starts with kind of like a guiding strategy, right? And what we say at Speedchain is without choices, there is no strategy. So you cannot solve every problem on the planet well. It's impossible.
Totally agree.
So like what are the choices that we're going to make and how are we going to go after them and attack them, right? So for us, as you just described, growth for us is really, I mean, we're a venture backed business. We're growing quickly. I mean, when we talk about growth, it's not just like 10, 20% year over year. We're talking about hundreds of percents that we're
Yeah.
growing every year, right? And
Yeah.
and part of what's important to remember and ground ourselves within that growth is our clients coming to Speedchain and our customers saying, "Wow, this has made my organization easier," or "Has it made my process easier?" And so I think we really ground ourselves in a client-centric approach, which is we can grow all we want, but if our customers don't love the product, the growth's going to stop,
And
right?
also, if you're looking at your customer and you realize we're actually not even solving it, we could do business with you, I suppose, but we're not really solving any problem that you have. I mean,
It's always that's kind of what we ground ourselves in, right? Are we solving the customer's our problem, right? And so I
yeah,
think like when we think about those actions and strategies, there's a bunch of different things that we can go do, right? We're investing in our technology roadmap. We're investing in partnerships with AGC and ABC, kind of the associations that be in and kind of growing within those ecosystems. But it all comes back to, does this move the needle for the customer? And I think
yeah.
when
I want to hit on one thing, David. Sorry to
yeah,
back up. You said something very interesting, and I love this mentality. You said something along the lines that at Speed Chain, if you don't have choices, it's not a strategy, or it's something along those
yeah, if
lines.
you're
Right?
not making decisions or making choices, there's no
Yeah.
strategy. Yeah.
When you are a venture-backed company and you have really aggressive growth goals, like I don't want to say a gun to your head, but a little bit of a gun to your head,
Yeah.
how do you balance growth for growth's sake and smart growth? And what I mean by that is, all right, I've got all these opportunities in the universe in front of me.
Yeah.
This is our core business because we've defined our core business. These are nice little shiny things.
Yeah.
We
So
could do that. How do you
it's a
balance that?
it's a great question. I think to your point is like we've decided that we are for construction or purpose built for construction. There are customers that call on us that say, hey, we're in media and telecoms. We want to use you, right? And we tell them no. And the answer, and the reason why we tell them no is because we believe in this concept called innovation stacking, which is if you solve for every person in an organization within a construction company, and you build and you stack what you built last month on top of what you're building next month and future months, you build a defensibility to your business as you think about features and product roadmap.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And guys, for those of you out there who are listening, what David means by a defensive position in the market, and guys, you can apply this to your business as well. David and his team are getting deeper and deeper with regard to core value add features that their customers are using, right? So the value is high. And then eventually they're so ingrained with their customers, the exit costs, or the willingness or the appetite to exit from a relationship with Speedchain is so high that it's a very defensible position, right? And that's the ultimate goal within any company, right? And with your companies out there in the trades, do you do really, really good work, right? Do you do work on time? Are you reliable? Do you do it within budget? That gets you deeper and deeper within your GCs or the owners of the projects, where the exit costs of working with you are too high for them to do that. So you're in a very defensible position. That's a barrier to entry from competitors. And all of a sudden, price becomes less of an issue. Because I've said in the past, guys, cost or price is only an issue with the absence of value, right? So, I mean, I think that's a really good point, David, and I wanted to touch on that.
No, you literally hit it on the head.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how we prioritize decisions and that's how we think about going after the market. Is this, we say two things. Do we have a right to win?
Yeah.
Now, if we're going into a new space, should we and can we? Because is it what's right for the customer?
Yeah. Yeah. David, this has been really awesome. I really appreciate your time. My last question is there anything I haven't asked or anything that you want to say that I didn't touch on? Obviously, I'm not a payments expert, but
no, this has been great. I've enjoyed the conversation. The last thing I'll say is there's a lot of technology out there, right? And a lot of disparate solutions, right? If you went out to the marketplace, you could find 100 different things to solve 100 different problems, right? And I'd say my kind of guiding principle or what I would try and help advise businesses on is like, find solutions that can solve multiple problems and try and keep your tech stack as simple as humanly possible, right? We've seen customers that say, hey, well, we've tried these 100 solutions and we only use 10 of them. It's like, great, but you could have started with these 5. So approach it with intentionality, think about what's right for you and the problems that you want to solve.
Yeah. To David's point, the other day, David, you're going to laugh at this, but I just feel like I have so many things going on at once. This is on a personal level. So this is not enterprise level. This is a personal example that you can absolutely apply to enterprise level. I said, I need like an all-encompassing almost like operating system for me, for when do I follow up with people, CRM, note-taking, all that stuff. And you Google it or you chat GPT it, and there's 100 different websites that come up, right? And it's so confusing. And so, you want to find someone who's an expert. So when you're working to increase your technology infrastructure, such as working with a company like Speedchain on the payment side, for example, if they're a good company and they care about the well-being for you, they're going to try to offer value outside of just the direct relationship that they have with you. So don't be afraid when you're talking to someone like David, if you're looking at Speedchain saying, hey, I'm also trying to solve this problem. You're in the tech/payment space. Do you have any recommendations on how I should tackle this? Because he and his team are experts, right? Why not just leverage that relationship? So anyway, guys, this is closing out episode 145 of the Mobilization Mindset. David Heyer from Speedchain, friend, partner to Mobilization Funding. Thank you so much for taking the time. You're so informative, and looking forward to seeing you soon. That's a sign off, guys. Thanks a lot for listening.